Okay, we're ready to start. Best of 7 level.
Here, Judy Hugh from the USA in red, and Anqi Luo in black from Canada on the near side.
Judy was notified at the last moment as the alternate on the U.S. Olympic squad coming down here to potentially qualify through this regional event. Jun Gao, our #1 finisher in the first tryouts, had a knee injury that was suffered at the World Championships, and at the last moment notified USA Table Tennis she'd be unable to compete at her top level, and Judy got a phone call along with brother Adam, is down here ready to try to earn a spot, and she's still in the driver's seat right now. If she can win this match, she will advance to the single elimination phase of this second and final competition for the women.
It's really the type of rally we've seen Angie throughout the tournament do well in. She gave the top remaining seed in the women's tournament, Lily Zhang, a really good match. Won the first game and was playing very close with Lily all the way. So I expect her to continue to play well during those types of rallies.
It really seems if Judy can get that first spin in, she can nullify some of the speed that Anqi has been demonstrating so far here in Cary, North Carolina.
And she really seems to favor that deep serve into the middle of the table, trying to jam her opponent. She used it against her teammate Shirley Fu earlier today.
Judy's having just a little bit of difficulty getting that first attack to land. She's taking the shot, which makes a lot of sense, but got to be a little more consistent in order to get into the game. Wonderful placement by Angie, really playing the angles well. Seems to be at a slightly faster pace than what Judy's comfortable. Judy plays a lot of matches against men's players on the East Coast. Men generally play a little bit slower. Girls are a little bit more rapid fire.
Going to Angie's middle might not be the best play for Judy. She may want to stretch Angie out wide to the forehand first. Judy switching to the backhand serve a little bit high, unable to deal with the return.
So Judy dodges one bullet there. And she comes through with the first game, 11-7. Really imposing her will on Judy so far. And Han, if you're in this situation, Judy's coming back to get coach from Father Barry Dittel. What is it likely that Barry will try to get across to her during this short break?
Judy's really not getting her feet set in the correct position to take that first opening with heavy spin, and she's been very clever to place the ball around Judy's middle to jam her. It's very difficult to open with your backhand from that position, and also to make Judy open from wide to the forehand.
And just to keep some of our fans updated with the action, Sarah Yuen has won the first game over Erica Wu 11-9. So we'll try to keep you updated throughout the matches with some of the action going on. Currently, Shirley Fu is leading Lily Zhang 9-6 in their first game. We're back for action right now. Judy needs to get a good start here just to get back into the game. While it's not necessary that she needs to win it at a certain score of a 4-1 or 4-2, it seems if she can just win this match, being 2-1 in victories would be enough to get through. Unless Lily loses.
What's interesting is early in the day we saw Judy really getting really better as the tournament goes on in her second match of the day. And Angie looked like she makes some loose errors off the serve return against her teammate Shirley Fu, so I wonder if Judy can take advantage of some serve variation.
I wonder how in the first competition for the women, which was a single elimination tournament, Judy right off the bat drew Chris Xu and lost to a chopper, and it kind of might mess up the timing and the kind of tactics, having to wait a little bit. The women are playing on a different schedule since they have 2 tournaments while the men have 3 tournaments down here due to Mo Jung's winning of the Pan Am Games and taking the first North American slot on the women's side.
Judy jumping out to a quick start this game, now up 6-1.
It appears that the advice from Barry is working quite well. Very nice backhand opening on that ball and moving it around much better. But Angie definitely a little bit faster. Very nice backhand opening. And that's what we saw her do during most of her junior career, is having so much spin on that backhand that none of the other girls could counter it. And that's what they're often wanting to do. And wow, now Angie having a little bit of a mental lapse there. And Judy is completely taking control of this game. One more point. We'll be all even at 1 game apiece. And there we have it.
And Angie really having a lot of difficulty that game with Judy's spin, Sean. I feel like she's really unused to that sort of high ball. In fact, the higher the spin, the more difficulty she has. We saw this earlier in the day. A lot of the trouble she has is those high balls to the middle. I don't feel like she needs to take those particularly rushed or put a lot of pace on it. She just needs to take it off the bounce and use her quickness.
Clearly a must-win match for both players. They're trying to get into the single elimination phase of the second event here in Cary. Lily Zhang has lost the first game against Shirley Fu, and Shirley has opened up a 4-1 lead in game 2.
And if Lily loses that match, that could make things really interesting in this group.
Especially what it'll do is it'll put a little bit more pressure on the Judy-Anqi match, because they could be in a 3-way tie. But I believe that since Lily's beaten both of them, the tiebreaker procedure will put her automatically through. So
yeah,
maybe she's taking it a little bit easier than she needs to.
Certainly doesn't want to go into the next round.
Very strong backhand loop there by Judy. She's staying with her, basically her bread and butter that she's been living on for all these national titles and world team spots that she's made. Great point there by the women.
Judy with a good recovery there, and she had a strong opening, but then Angie is moving her out wide to the forehand, and that poses a problem for Judy to deal with.
Again, the speed of Anqi Luo, just too much to handle for Judy. Judy needs to figure out a way of slowing the ball down. That backhand loop is definitely more difficult to return than it looks. Seems if Anqi's able to play a lot more balls to the center of the table, she can really nullify Judy's ability to spin that ball up.
There's another great topspin from Judy from the backhand side. She can get that ball into the middle or into the elbow. That's a great placement for her.
And almost there's a comparison of what Judy was doing to both Pierre Luc Hintz as well as Timothy Wong. It's that first opening. When you can control that part of the rally, it really sets up the rest of the game. Here we have Anqi doing a little bit of the same thing with that nice backhand opening. It seems that all the women have very safe and well-placed shots, not necessarily finishing that ball on the third ball attack, but spinning it up.
Anqi really needs to get the ball away from Judy's backhand. They're going into Judy's middle, a little bit tougher to deal with, jamming her in the elbow.
And Anqi appears to be just a tad faster, especially when the rallies get into more of a counter route, counter driving versus a heavy topspin block.
And I think that's interesting. Judy, among the girls, seems to be one of those that deals with spin and pace well on the ball. Practices with her brother Adam a lot, practices with a lot of male players, but she has trouble with quickness sometimes.
But clearly, Judy's forehand is spinny. She has a very good smash. It seems though her serves are setting up the backhand for that opening. She's really not trying to force the forehand in. Just wants to get that first heavy topspin. Very well played. I mean, Judy's moving the ball around super, just Angie's able to cover that wide forehand with an even wider cross-court winner. Tied up 8-all, game 3. Very strong play there by Judy, hanging in there for the last seconds with a number of forehand and backhand combination attacks. Oh, beautiful shot there by Judy.
Great recovery from early in the point for Judy and finally opening up the angle for a forehand smash cross court.
Way to stick with that point. Looked like after that net ball that it would really cause some confusion on what ball to play, but Judy kept it in play, stayed with it, and came back with a big forehand. Give her 2 game points.
Bit of a missed opportunity there, but still 1 game point.
Oh, a little bit of an unlucky break there. Judy had an opening if she could have put the ball on the table down the line. A lot of spin on each of these balls. And now we're at deuce in the third. Wow. How things change so quickly. We've seen it throughout the men's competition and now on the women's side. No leads are safe. Judy took advantage of that lucky net break. Sometimes nets can be your friends, other times they can be your worst enemies.
And she likes to go back to that deep serve in critical situations, either to the middle or to the opponent's backhand, trying to jam them. That time, Judy just missed timing it.
Excellent point again. Anqi getting the upper hand. A little bit more control, a little bit more angle. Judy had what a huge opportunity. We're going to have a chance to hear Judy speak earlier.
The second round of trials until Monday night when I was coming back from the college nationals trip just in Texas. I received a phone call from my parents and they're like, a voicemail actually, and several missed calls, and they're like, okay, you're actually in now, so be ready to go to North Carolina tomorrow.
That was how Judy found out about getting into this match or getting into this tournament. Definitely, in some ways, you got to feel great, but at the same time, if you don't have that kind of constant pressure after the previous tryouts to keep you on the top of your game, from your perspective, Han, would you rather know early or have that surprise call at the last minute?
I would rather know early for sure. I got to speak to Judy, and she did mention that she definitely would have prepared a little bit differently had she known from the beginning, and just a little bit of a lack of preparation. So I would definitely have known way in advance.
I know that because she played at the World Championships in Dortmund, she knew that Gao was dealing with some leg issues, but I don't know if she knew to the extent that they were bothering Gao. So
I think from what she said, Gao seemed like she did want to play in the trials, so the team members definitely thought she was coming, and Gao only withdrew due to some advice from her doctors.
I think she was instructed definitely not to play because it could be career-threatening.
And she's definitely looking to open up the angles by going wide to Judy's forehand. I've been really impressed by Anqi's reactions when the balls come into her elbow and middle area. She's really been able to retrieve those balls well.
It seems like one of the tactics that the top players have been practicing a lot more lately is actually drills dealing with balls being played to that elbow or that forehand pocket area. In the past, that was never a thought. You just worked on speed and strength. Now it's a lot more placement with the ball and the heavy spin that we're seeing. Placement is playing an even greater role since everyone can hit it so hard. Just to give a brief update while we're in the early stages of this game. Anqi Luo is trailing Sarah Yuan 2-0, but she's leading 9-7 in this game. And Lily Chung is leading 9-8 in a game of peace with Shirley Fu.
Great rallying from Anqi there. She's really getting the better of Judy on these rallies, especially when the rally moves to the forehand. Judy's definitely got more spin on her backhand side than her forehand side.
It almost seems, Han, like if Judy could just slow it down and turn it into the amount of spin the players are putting on the ball versus the speed. Against Anqi, as you said, she's playing the middle so extremely well, and then anything to the wide corners she's covering without too much difficulty. And Erica Wu has won game number 3, 11-7 over Sarah Yuen.
Angie there, her serve location has been really good so far this match. And additionally, I think she's serving a lot of the side topspin serves, not allowing Judy to really get a lot of backspin. She wants to start from topspin and start the rally quickly.
Also seems like she's placing her serve so deep that a lot of time Judy's forced to backpedal in order to open up, and it's very difficult on a deep ball. Wow, look at that backhand down the line by Anqi Luo. Very solid play. And Judy responds with a down the line backhand of attack of her own.
That's really what Judy needs to do a little bit more of. She needs to stay away from the backhand and sort of body area of Angie and go after the wide forehand. You saw, of course, when her teammate Shirley Fu played her. Shirley Fu played Anqi Luo a lot to the wide forehand. Of course, that's lefty against righty, but it was very effective.
Again, you see Anqi playing a lot of balls to the middle just to stay away from that heavy topspin that Judy can pretty much employ at will, but it really does its best work off that first push. During a fast countering rally, a lot of times she'll have to block and kind of counter drive it versus get in that heavy topspin.
There, Anqi taking the fourth game, now up 3 games to 1. Excuse me.
It's going to make it very tough now for Judy. She's got to, I'm not going to say change her style because she's going to go with what got her here, but just playing a fast countering type of game isn't really posing that many problems for Anqi.
I think if Judy does get into the rally, her placement is going to have to change a little bit. She is going out to Anqi's wide forehand a little bit more, but I feel like after going there, she might even want to go there again, rather than coming directly back to Anqi's backhand. Anqi's obviously expecting that ball.
I would agree with you, Han. If she plays 2 balls out to the forehand, at least she doesn't have to get back into the backhand to the middle kind of combination. She can force Anqi to actually make 2 forehand shots, maybe even force a loop out of her to where she can use some of that spin and speed to her advantage. Yeah, going back to the same spot is often a tricky move, but it can actually pay pretty big dividends.
And it's looking like Anqi, a lot of these balls to her wide forehand, she's able to reach the first one, but she looks a little bit off balance, and if Judy can just keep the next ball on the table in a good location, she might be able to take a little bit more control of the rallies.
Both players saving and having their timeouts, so it wouldn't surprise me if at some point in this game the lead begins to open up for a player to take their break to get some extra advice.
And there's Judy actually winning a very nice rally, going back to the forehand after Anqi's expecting the ball to her wide backhand.
Extremely strong table game by Anqi. Generally, when I play against quick, fast counterattackers, you just want to load up the pushes, load up the heavy spin, and just slow down the action. Because otherwise, it's just rat-a-tat-tat. They're moving you side to side, and you can only hit half shots because you don't have the time to take the big swing. So you got to get them to change their pace and actually their strokes a little bit.
I think you're absolutely right, Sean. And one of the things that worked for Judy earlier that I think she needs to go back to is actually just spinning the ball a little bit higher than she's used to. And she seems to have a lot more trouble dealing with those.
There's an example right there, just getting it up high enough where she has to raise her racket up to block on the top of the ball, and if she's a little bit late, forcing her to come through it. Beautiful cross-court good block by Judy, so she's opening up a little bit of a lead, and this is a must-win game. This is going to be Judy's last game if she is unable to win it.
That heavy spin again into the elbow. It's served her well so far this match. She just needs more opportunities to open on that kind of ball.
Judy's forehand really hasn't been a factor so far in this game. It's pretty much come down to Anqi's speed and then Judy's attempts to get a heavy topspin in on the backhand side.
Judy's forehand, to your point, Sean, has really been more reactive than anything so far this match, just reacting to whatever goes to that side of the table. There's that heavy topspin on the backhand side again. And she still hasn't really found a way to get on top of that ball.
You see Anqi wanting to stay away from it. She really pushed at an extreme angle to get to the forehand. It sounds like something that Judy should be prepared for. There's a very heavy loop. Bottom line is Judy moves forward assuming that she can take and win this game is can she get that heavy back in? There's the game. So now trailing 3-1, Anqi Luo taking the first, splitting the second and third. Now Judy coming back. We're going to have a chance to hear some of Judy's words in her own voice.
If both Ab and I qualified to go to London, that would be like unbelievable. I don't even know how I would describe that, but that would be really, really cool.
And back here at Live Action, that was Father Barry giving Judy some final advice to help her get ready for the 6th game in a must-win situation. Often mention that Judy's part of the first family of table tennis in the U.S. with Father Barry, Olympic mother Lily Yip, and brother Adam here, who we'll see competing a little bit later this evening.
Judy really trying to expose Anqi's forehand a little bit. Anqi's looked uncomfortable from that side so far, the last 2 games especially.
The funny thing is, Han, even though Judy can establish her offense with that heavy backhand topspin, she's very strong at countering and blocking and hitting. But it just allows her to control the tempo and the amount of speed of the ball if she can get that first loop in, as well as kind of tying the hands of the opponent to where all they can do is block, and then she has something to work with. But that's a huge forehand from Anqi, very strong.
The more Judy can force these rallies to start off underspin, I think the better off she'll be.
To give you a quick update on the other matches that are being played next door, both Erica Wu and Sarah Yuen are now in the 5th game, tied 2 games apiece, and identical scores with Lily Zhang and Shirley Fu at 2 games apiece. A lot of great action here at the Bond Community Center in Cary, North Carolina.
Great rally there, and again, Anqi able to react to balls hitting to her elbow very well. Judy's just going to have to get way more topspin on that ball in the middle of the rally if she wants to give Anqi any sort of trouble in that area.
Again, Anqi moving her serve around to hopefully force Judy to create some holes on the table that she can attack to. it really looks like Anqi's trying to go even wider to the backhand, so if Judy is going to loop it, at least she's cutting down on the angles that she can go for.
I think she really prefers that Judy open that first backhand into her backhand, where she's much better at controlling that ball, rather than to her elbow.
That's one of the very lethal shots that both Adam and Judy have, is that backhand opening down the line, because it really forces you to block out of the forehand corner, which most players really never even practice.
The timeout on Judy Hugh's end. She realizes that she has to win this game, feels the momentum slipping away here.
No reason to have a timeout next to your name after the event's over, so good move to use it, get some extra advice, take a little mental break.
I think Judy really needs to change the tempo of these rallies she's getting into. It's too much bang bang, very fast-paced rallies that really suit Anqi's style a lot more.
It looked like Judy had won that point 3 or 4 times. Excellent opening down the line, playing both the middle and out to the forehand. But Anqi's showing that she's just as capable covering that middle as any player we've seen so far this tournament. Again, normally that would be a perfect return. Judy flipping it right to an elbow, but Anqi expecting it there, turning the corner, and really making Judy pay for the placement.
And it's really how fast she can get her body out of the way without having to take too many steps.
Han, I think in that situation, the ball, you don't have to move so much, but you just have to make up your mind quickly. And it seems like every time Judy goes to Anqi's middle, she knows what stroke she's going to use, so there's no hesitation, and then she just plays it to the open court.
A strong top spin there by Judy. But Anqi, to your point, Sean, really seems to automatically favor the forehand in that situation, which has got to make a lot of coaches smile, because a lot of players will take that with their backhand.
It's much more difficult to get a forehand in because you're going to have to get your shoulder rotation as well as getting around the ball. Often we don't see timeouts so closely timed, with literally 4 or 5 points between them. But Anqi realizes that if she can get a little bit of a lead in this game, Judy will be thinking about this as her last chance to extend the match. While we're on break, the match between Sarah Yuen and Erica Wu. Sarah has won the 5th game and now leads 3-2, won comfortably at 11-3, and Lily Zhang has also won the 5th game to go up 3-2 with a comfortable 11-6 victory on her end. Oh, powerful forehand there. We haven't seen that all tournament long.
That's usually not a shot that Judy goes for. Usually she goes for a sort of a medium to solid sort of forehand. She really cranked that one.
Again, there's that great backhand heavy topspin opening. I don't know how they do that. That's just amazing.
But Sean, Judy's got to realize that there are very few of these types of rallies that she's actually won. She might as well just take a little bit of pace off the ball when she gets into that situation.
Be interesting if she'd ever step in and get a little bit closer. But she got the advantage there with one extra return.
But just having that slow and spinny one, and Anqi was unable to time it correctly, returns off the end. 9-8, Judy serving.
That is so heavy. It's slow and it's loaded. For Anqi to go over that ball with speed, it's not really possible. She has to completely just deal with the angle, and there's no pace on the ball, so it has to be absolutely perfect, even though she blocked it in the net. First, I thought that might have been a let ball, but there's actually a ball in the court from Erica's table. Great shots by Judy, really moving it again from the middle to the forehand and back. She's not wanting to go into the backhand play, which seems like a smart move. One more game point for the American.
Anqi's saving 2 game points there. Judy's going to have to refocus.
Excellent opening loop by Judy Hugh. Anytime she seems to have that extra moment where she can spin it up. It's been the best shot so far this match for her. That ball sails just a bit long. Sure, Judy would like to have that one back. Nice play from the backcourt by Judy Hugh. Another game point to extend this into a 7th game. There it is. Judy Hugh winning 13-11. We're going to see if we can go and hear some of Anqi's words on what it would mean to make it to the Olympic Games.
My name's Angie. I'm 15 and I live in Mississauga. I've been playing table tennis for about 6 or 7 years. If I qualify for the Olympics, it will be a dream come true for me. I've been having this goal for a long time.
And now we're going into game 7. With Judy able to hold on to that deuce game after having a number of game points.
Sean, towards the end of that game, I felt that there were a couple of points where Judy, even in retrieval mode, I don't know, by design or by accident, backed off the table and just slowed the pace down, gave Anqi a couple of heavy spins, and Anqi wasn't able to time those returns.
It really seems if Judy can play off of Anqi's speed a little bit versus trying to force her ball, that she'll have greater success. Oh, that ball just clipped the top of the net. But clearly Judy deciding to go out to the forehand just to stay away from that backhand.
And she, of course, showing that she has that lethal backhand punch when she has the time to pull it off.
And a very solid backhand topspin play by the Rutgers graduate. Cary has now extended into a 7th game against Sarah Ewan with a 11-7 win. Judy reaching a little bit early on that ball. She had the opportunity, just a little impatient.
She needs to resist the temptation to play at such a fast tempo once she gets control of the rally.
It must look appealing, but because her strength is the heavy topspin, she needs to slow it down. That's a well-placed drop shot off the serve. Again, if you're going to play somebody who's using this countering tactic, slow it down, bring them in, bring them out. Don't give them the same pace 2 balls in a row. Well, that ball might have been a little bit too high, but it was the right idea. Again, Anqi has been so solid on balls to the middle. I mean, normally if you hit a player there 3 or 4 times, you're going to get the point 75% of the time. That tends to be her strongest area of the table. Judy's getting more points wide out to the forehand than anything. Now trailing 2-5 in the 7th game to advance out of the round robin.
The top spin server to the middle of the table. Both players seem to have trouble returning that serve.
Judy mounting a comeback of her own right now. That ball just going a bit wide.
Sean, one of the problems of being such a backhand-oriented player is that when someone jams you in the middle like that, especially with any side spin, it can be very difficult to control that ball into the body.
Oh, lucky break there. Looked like Judy was controlling things during that fast-paced back and forth, but Anqi opening up a 7-4 lead in this 7th and final game of the match.
I think Judy's still not able to play at the tempo she wants to. Early in the rally, again, going a little bit too quick. Could have just waited a little bit and try to put a little extra topspin on the ball.
Oh, that's outstanding play there by Anqi. Able to withstand 2 heavy top spins and then to come back with a very powerful forehand for the winner, opening up a 5-point lead. Nice play by Judy.
Great placement, 1-2 combination, wide to the backhand, wide to the forehand. And there's brother Adam cheering her on, hoping that she can fight her way back into this.
Wonderful forehand play. Adam urging Judy on right now. She needs to keep this string alive. Oh, excellent play. Excellent play by Judy. Now she's getting her topspin in the countering rallies and able to really slow down the speed of the pace.
Absolutely. When Anqi tries to force her into a fast pace, Judy needs to do exactly that. Back off. Just put a little extra spin on the ball.
Another nice combination there.
Adam is on his feet. He's excited. Judy's now within 1 point of tying this game up.
Nice to have a brother who can do all the screaming for you. Excellent play.
And all of a sudden, Judy finds herself at 9-9 in the 7th game, right back in this.
And with the serve. Unlucky bounce. but definitely a very deep shot by Anqi Luo of Canada to get the first match point of this 7th game match. Wow. Again, Angie just getting a slightly small advantage on the opening, but Judy has the serve. Oh, and Anqi Luo will be advancing into that second phase. That terrific match with Judy Hugh. Both players showing great comeback ability, but Anqi just a little bit stronger towards the tail end of each of these games.